So when you're making a 1 day training outline, you need to, the first thing that you need to do is to segment your day. So you will have slots like you will have your lunch break planned for the day. You will have two other breaks, which is the tea in the afternoon. You will have a tea in the morning. And when you do that, you'll realize that you're not working on a full day training outline. Instead, you're working on 4 mini training programs aligned together to give a unified blended learning experience. And if you're starting at 9 in the morning and ending at around 5 in the evening, and you plan to have your first tea break at around 10:45, you want your lunch at around 1 p.m., and the next tea break, let's say at around 3:45 p.m. This gives you about 90 to 100 minutes of each slot. So how it makes your life easier now is, now you're not thinking 8 hours of training, you're thinking 90 hours of training and 4 segments, and that's what you need to prepare. So when you're starting off your day, you would obviously go into introductions, your overview of the program, the objectives that you have set, expectations from the participants, norm settings if you want to do any. So you'll go through that process, and you will take about 20 to 30 minutes of doing this so that you're set for the day. And once you're set for the day, you will go into the bigger activity of the day, which is an icebreaker. Now, a lot of trainers make a mistake that they think an icebreaker is supposed to be a 10 to 15 minute of activity that generally breaks ice between the participants. Well, while an icebreaker needs to break the ice between the participants, there are specific reasons why icebreakers are done. So icebreaker needs to break the ice. At the same time, icebreaker also needs to create an environment of trust so that when participants sit together, they're open to each other. The third thing that an icebreaker needs to do is make the audience curious about the topic and about the day. Make them curious about what's coming their way later during the day. The fourth thing that an icebreaker needs to do is to open the topic for the participants. So that's what an icebreaker does. And with briefing, activity, and then debrief, it generally takes around 60 to 80 minutes to get an icebreaker done. Right, so by the time we're done with your icebreaker, people will essentially be curious about the topic and what's coming during the day. They will have some questions about the topic as well, and they would have a basic idea of where the program is heading. And you go into your tea. If you come back from your tea at around 11 and you have your lunch at 1 p.m., you have 2 hours of second segment of the day. For the second segment of the day, this is a time where you will find participants most active because they've just been through an icebreaker, so they're curious, they know about the topic, there is conversation that has started. So generally use this segment for data download on the topic. If you want to share history about the topic, there are certain concepts and models that you wish to introduce before having participants experience them, do it here. So for the first 60 minutes, this could be a presentation, this could be a two-way conversation, this could be flip charting, right? But this is where you are doing a data download to participants so that they understand the main concept of the topic. Once you go through this after 60 minutes, because now you would see that you've been speaking, people have been having conversations, but they have been sitting for most of the time. So you want them to get up and do some activity. So this is where you could feed in an energizer. An energizer that is somehow connected to the data download that you've done, not a random energizer that people can't relate with, right? And then you go back into doing more data download, right? And this is where you come to your lunch. After the lunch, most people are scared because this is what is famously called a graveyard shift. And because it's called graveyard shift, what I've seen most trainers do is that as soon as participants walk into the training room, they go into an energizer. This is a mistake that most of the trainers make. Because if you notice, when people have lunch, when you have food, right, you are active than before. So for when the participants walk into the training room, you notice that for the next 15 to 20 minutes you will have their attention. And this is a time where you need to have contemplative conversations. This is where you give them something to think about. This is where you say your punchlines. Next 15 to 20 minutes. Instead, do an energizer here before you go to lunch. And if you ask why is that, one reason is because when you do an energizer right after lunch, people could throw up and it would not be nice. The second reason, most important one, is because this is a bigger break that people will get, right? This one is just 15 minutes, let's say, so they had to just get cookies and coffee and come back. This is a longer break, and they've been through half of the day with you. They've been through half of the workshop, so they will have things to say about the workshop. They will have ideas to share about the workshop. They'll have things to say about the trainer as well. So when they go out, you want them to be happy as they go out, because when they go out happy, right, the general conversation that they'll have with people and other participants it will be in a good mood. So they'll say good things. It is exactly how you go to movies, and at the end of a movie there are pop songs playing which you thought had nothing to do with the movie, but they were still there. The reason they were there is that so that you're happy when you walk out of the theater. And that's the similar experience that you need to create for the participants as well. When they walk out, they're feeling good. Once you have done this 15 to 20 minutes of contemplative conversation, when you've done your punchlines, then for the next 60 to 90 minutes, what you're doing now is high energy activity. This is where you want people to really get up on their feet and do something, because now they're getting into the graveyard shift and you want to save it, right? So you create a team activity, a high energy exercise, simulation, syndicate work, anything that you feel more relevant with the program. This is what happens here, and then you go into the debrief, which is where you come to your third break. After that third break, you have about 60 minutes to close. So you do your big closing activity. Right, which summarizes everything that you have covered. and you do a debrief of the day, take feedback, and close with happy participants. This is how you can create a one-day outline in a simple format. Now, do I use this outline every time I train? Not necessarily, but this is a good format to begin with. Once you get comfortable with this format, you can obviously improvise and come up with other things that you would want to add on, right? At the same time, if you're doing, let's say, a 2-day program, what you do is divide this into two, and you do similar things on day 2. Like similar things meaning similar format, obviously different activities and different conversation, but similar format. Right? So you have a 2-day program, you're doing a 4-day program, use the same format for 4 days, and you would see that this makes your life much easier when designing a 1-day training program or a multiple day training program.